Hello, so I am back, and today I think I have kind of one of the kind of final iteration of the corridor crawler, or Lemmiwinks, as I've been dubbing it, because it looks very hamster like. Um, there's been a lot of things that have changed. As you can see, the suspension looks a fair bit different, and there's a whole grid on top of it now. But yeah, this is the few things that had to change is I had to alter the suspension just to make it more reliable. There's also now this front suspension here, which helps it turn a little bit quicker. Of course, it's got the suspended connector, which allows you to carry a grid outside the corridor blocks. I did manage to be able to fit a little seat on the back, so if you're just using it just as Lemmiwinks inside a corridor, you can jump on the seat and take it for a ride. The logic is a lot of the same thing. Just now, instead, we've got trigger sensors as well as ECs, and basically the ECs are doing the same thing with turning the hinge as well as turning the suspension and then giving a propulsion override to that front wheel to help it turn. That's pretty much the extent of the logic. It's just forward, left, right. Can't go reverse. It's non-symmetrical. It could be symmetrical. The problem with making it symmetrical is that you can't fit the seat on it, and I figured that seat was kind of important. And it works good like this, so it doesn't need to be symmetrical. And because it's limited to a closed loop anyways, it's not much of a difference just to go around the loop than it is to turn around and go backward. But yeah, this is kind of the grid here, and you can see I've got a couple examples that have been going. Here's one with just Lemmiwinks in the tunnel. You can see it's going. But we can go over here. We can see a couple examples in various states. I think this one here is the oldest running one, which has been running for about 24 to 36 hours ish, non-stop, and it hasn't had any issue. The other one's been running for up to 24 hours, depending on which one it is. So yeah, it's been real stable. Working good. We can do some things like if we go over here, we can turn on door sensors or dock sensor, which basically this uses sliding doors, which just two sliding doors happens to be the perfect size to capture Lemmiwinks. So it's a real good way to stop Lemmiwinks, and if you want to trade off the grid on the top, you can do that inside these doors and whatnot. And you can just unlock it by opening the doors, and it goes. You can shut off the sensor if you don't want it to capture again. Other thing is, over here, you can see you can't intersect with a full door, but you can use the corridor half doors to enter the corridor. See, there's Lemmiwinks coming through. And it does give off like some weird smokes and some sparks and stuff, and that's just, space engineers. But we'll go over to the master over here, and you can kind of see this is just an example grid held up on top, a little tram. It's got some lights. These just mirror what's on Lemmiwinks, so that when you're driving, you can kind of see what it's doing. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of screens here. I'm not going to go over them, but basically they just explain what it's doing, common bugs, because obviously this is meant to be like a kind of a platform that you build whatever you want onto it, so there's certain limitations to it that you have to keep in mind. mostly because connectors do not share inertia tensor. If this grid is kind of lopsided weight, it's going to be a problem. So you kind of have to, build with that in mind. Don't make this grid too heavy, and if you are making it heavy, then you need to make sure that weight is kind of evenly distributed. But otherwise, we can just do this, and basically to paste this in, all you want to do is you don't want to paste it in like this. Sometimes the wheels get weird when they do that. Really what you want to do is paste it in above the ground so that it falls, and basically what it's going to do is there's just a quick sensor on there, and it waits till all 4 pads have been connected to the ground for 6 seconds, and then it locks. So it always locks on as level of a terrain as it can. But of course this is just an example grid. And then if you paste it up in the air like that, that just means the suspensions will always not be glitched. So then you can click this, and it's just going to drop and bring this little mount out of the way. And then you can add some propulsion. And it's just got a little quick welder here just to weld in those missing corridor blocks. It can run without these corridor blocks. Like if they're here, it's going to go through this no problem. It's just a little bit more reliable when it goes through only corridor blocks. There's every once in a while, depending on the weight of the grid, if there's more than one block of an open top, then it can kind of push up and get stuck. So that's why I weld those in, but it's definitely not required. But as you can see, it just kind of scoots along, and there's a fair bit of movement on these top grid because, like I say, there is no share inertia tensor, and you're still on suspension wheels. So all the weight up here is kind of throwing Lemmiwinks around in the tunnel, so you get a little bit of bouncing. But as you can see, you can even do this is a repeated opposite turns. Even that works great. You can do 180s, even back to back on opposite sides, works great. So far I've really had no issues with reliability with this current design, and like this is not the first design since that last video. This is like 5, 8, 10 designs later. You'd see some examples over here, example there. I even went and I tried like completely re-envisioning things and like using even more subgrids, trying to like make it a 4-point turning, and that didn't work great. There's a surprising lack of space in corridors, so this is so far the only design that I've found that worked. As you can see, like previous designs kind of had the top suspensions kind of alternating, like the bottom ones are. That made it better at turning. The problem was then they would interfere with these grids, because these are subgrids, and subgrids can give traction to wheels. But you can see how there's a block here that intersects with these wheels, but these wheels don't get traction off those blocks because they're part of the grid it belongs to. But if this wheel intersects with this piston head, because that piston head is a subgrid, it will get traction off it. So this had to be kind of, these wheels have to be tilted upwards so that they don't intersect with these blocks, so that this whole grid can work. And then of course they also have to be tilted backwards here so that this one can be tilted forward so that you can fit these 3 wheels in this arrangement, which is typically not possible, but I made it work. And yeah, there's right now I did take off all the like the antenna and stuff. That takes a bit of power, and it is limited on power. Like there's only 1, 2, 3, I think just 3 blocks. 3? Yeah, just the 3 battery blocks. So it was kind of hurting on power. So I removed that. There is a way, if you do something like, I think I can show you here. You can remove this block, and you can fit either a battery block or like an action block here. So there's this block and this block, which are technically still free blocks that you could place something in. Then if you need to add like an antenna, you're gonna have to take this back seat off, because there's just no place to really put it. If you put blocks here, which you can do if you remove these tires, the problem is they'll smash into the corridors and take damage, so you can't really put anything there. You could put 2 more sensors here. That's fine. I don't know if it'll let me place it, but you can put more sensors here, no problem. If you need more sensor control, just can't put a full block in that area. You also can't put a full block in this area like you can over there, because this wheel arrangement doesn't allow it. So it is kind of limited on space in that regard, but of course, if you have a grid connected to the top of it, you can just put whatever you want on here. So I can have an antenna up here, and I can have action blocks up here that interact with it, because as you can see, you're able to see all the I just realized these blocks are on. They're not supposed to be on. It would auto-correct itself, but they're not supposed to be on by default. Yeah. Don't know that there's a whole lot more to say. There's definitely more that can be done with this design. Like I was working, kind of testing some things out here. You can use like a piston to go between multiple levels, and you can use these half doors just to create a little bit of gap, so it just makes going up and down between these. If you use full blocks, which you could, just because it's 3 blocks within 3 blocks, that puts a lot of stress on the piston, and then that risks clang and whatnot. But yeah. Is there anything else really to say? I don't really think so. I think this is kind of at a good state now. I've also spent way too much time on it, and I need to get back to more productive things than playing Space Engineers. But this has been real fun, and I think it's a real cool design. I think, like, as far as like a monorail goes, which is basically what it's set up right now, is just as a monorail, a little carriage system. It's one of the better designs I've seen, just in the fact that it requires basically no blocks, and it requires very little planning. A lot of monorails I see you have to do like manual placements of blocks, and you have 5-6 blocks per section of the track that you have to lay down because you need to use half blocks and whatnot, and then you've got a super tricky to install cart. But this is all super simple. You can easily lift this with any crane or ship or whatever you want to do, and you can connect any cart you want to the system, and the system is only 1 block wide, 1 block tall, and however many blocks long. So it's real compact, I think. But yeah, this is Lemmiwinks, and I think that's all I got left to say. Keep this video a little shorter than the last one. This one only 15 minutes. Look at me go. But yeah, you can check this out. It's on the workshop now. If you like it, leave a comment, leave a like, all that sort of stuff. And I'll see you next time.